Afghanistan's accused the U.S. of forcing it into an unfair contract with NATO by cutting off fuel supplies to the country's security forces. President Karzai recently rejected Washington's deal to let the alliance's troops stay after 2014 and now says pressure's being applied to drag him back in. RT's Lucy Kafanov now reporting on why Kabul has refused to put its signature on the deal.
In war, getting out is often harder than going in, and nowhere does that hold more true than in Afghanistan. President Obama promised to withdraw combat forces by the end of 2014.
Afghans will have full responsibility for their security, and this war will come to a responsible end.
But the two countries have been at odds over a deal that would keep some U.S. troops past that deadline. Washington wants the pact signed before the end of the year.
It's imperative that we conclude the bilateral security agreement as soon as possible.
But Afghan President Hamid Karzai says not until the U.S. cleans up its act.
For us, the issue of sovereignty and detentions and the continued presence of international forces in Afghan villages and the very conduct of the war itself.
The simmering tensions have erupted into a war of words. On Sunday, Karzai accused the U.S. of deliberately withholding fuel supplies to pressure him into signing the deal. The NATO-led force in Afghanistan says that's simply not true. And it's not the only spat. A U.S. drone strike last week killed a toddler and injured 2 women. The top U.S. commander formally apologized. But Karzai wants a different apology, one from President Obama himself for harm done to Afghan civilians during the war. The U.S. response: don't hold your breath.
There is not a need for the United States to apologize to Afghanistan. Quite the contrary. We have sacrificed and supported them in their democratic progress and in tackling the insurgency and al-Qaeda.
But the insurgency isn't over, and in parts of Afghanistan, residents are caught between hatred of international forces and fear of the Taliban. This man says he lost 2 sons in an errant NATO attack.
My children feel fear when they see a helicopter and run away to the rooms. There is a lot of fear.
But once the sun goes down, another threat emerges.
At night, the Taliban run the area. The district government is just there in name, but there is no real security.
And Afghan forces are still heavily dependent on the West.
If the U.S. troops stop helping us, as there are a lot of threats against us in the region, we will be facing big problems.
Although Afghan tribal leaders endorse the pact, Karzai says he won't sign until after the spring elections. And that's only if Washington meets his demands, among them ending U.S. troop raids on Afghan homes and agreeing to peace talks with the Taliban. If the deal is torpedoed, that could mean no more U.S. soldiers. But it could also jeopardize billions of dollars in aid, leading some to accuse Karzai of putting the country's security at risk in order to score political points at home. Lucy Kafanov, RT, Moscow.
And journalist Matthew Akins believes even if the Allied troops pull out of the region, Afghanistan will still be manipulated by the same people, just from outside.
I think right now, if you traveled the country, you'd find a mood of pessimism and, if not a sense of sort of outrage, then at least a sense of despair regarding the ability of the international community, and particularly the U.S. and the U.S. military, to contribute in a positive way to the country. In this case, because there's no oil money to buffer the Afghan government, they probably realized that it would be a bad idea, at least for the Karzai regime, or whatever its successor is, to push out the international forces. So while on one hand the status of the, let's say, official mission post-2014 is still in doubt, there is no doubt that there's going to be a very active and continuing covert black presence in Afghanistan and in the surrounding region, led by the Central Intelligence Agency and the Joint Special Operations Command.